All right, so we were going through our consent agenda and going through the voluminous number of disclosures of present economic interests.
There's a number of them that have marked both boxes here. I don't know if
But then there's nothing filled in, you know,
Yeah.
but
yeah, I guess,
it
you
would be
understand. Eva Loken is sitting on the Board of Equalization, and she's a realtor. She didn't mark, I don't know if it's worth, she didn't mark either one.
She's been on that board for,
Oh, has she?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I think 12, 14,
yeah, she's the
15.
chair.
I see.
Yeah.
No, but you're correct, I mean, if they don't mark them, but she's a realtor, and I don't think she probably has any contracts with the city.
And then, Dale Hess has one in there, you know, he's on the Equal Rights Commission. And but he states that if it comes up, you know, equal right involving the city, he just excuses himself.
Do you have what the Nicole Nelson one? Which is somewhere nearish.
Give her,
the end.
get the date, I think
Oh,
that.
she. Yeah, are they
The
I
d- in
think
date
March
order.
31st.
Way ahead of me. Weeks ahead of me.
That was on the hand commission, the several of them are on the hand commission, about getting back.
Okay, what was the date, April?
March 31st.
March 31st, I'm not finding that. 31st or 31st?
31st. It's, yeah, it's one of the last 31st ones, and then it goes into April, the April ones after that.
On the right hand side. You're in April, Dee.
I know, but then when I go back here, didn't find it. What was the last name?
Nelson.
Nelson, okay, there it is. Hmm. I think we should ask her to come in.
Okay,
It's more
yeah.
complicated than we can understand.
Yeah, I'd like, I'd certainly, I'd like to know more about what does the
Especially
hand
if-
commission do? It surely doesn't just listen to public testimony, so what does
Mhm.
it actually do with that testimony? It
Yeah.
seems like she's got, as an executive director on board, she has fiduciary obligations to those organizations that are receiving grants. If the hand has some material involvement in that, there's at least a pretty serious potential
Mhm, yeah.
conflict.
Right. And of course, we've had that before. So.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think just the same, almost configuration, someone, a former president or officer of Rural Cap was part of the NOPB
I think I remember
for just
one.
that
Yeah, I remember that.
reason.
Dee, did you want to invite her, or do you want me to invite her?
Why don't you go ahead?
Okay.
I don't know her at all.
Okay.
I have to go back 40 pages. Named the attorney for the Board of Equalization. You know, there's one, James Sawhill, who's on the Urban Design, I'll just read it to you. He's on the Urban Design Commission, although he's been there since 2000. But he's part of the Lounsbury and Associates Architects, Civil Engineering. The Urban Design Commission, I believe, is sort of an appellate type. Well, that's just one we need to include in our education. I mean, he's been doing it for 16 years, so
Okay.
I don't think sending him a letter now would be appropriate.
There's another member of that commission who's also an attorney. I'm not an attorney, is also a architect, and states in not lost it, that she could have personal gain. I think she could have personal gain if she's, doesn't act correctly in front of that board.
So, that sort of brings up the question, do we develop sort of a form letter that we send to ones who clearly we need to know how to handle potential conflicts? I mean, there's quite a few of these that really do. And maybe that could be part of our next discussion too, is that seems to be the most common question here is,
Mhm.
in what they have to do.
Yeah, it would be good. Yeah, I mean, we sort of already have the one educational letter, right, about not participating in deliberation, and then I think we laid out the criteria. But maybe what we should do for these people is that we should send something to them, and then send something to the chair of that board or commission saying, this person has been identified as having potential
Mhm.
conflicts of interest in the course of business for this board or commission. Here is what you as chair need to assure happens whenever this comes up, and just sort of walk them through
Right.
the process. That could be done as a letter, and then eventually, maybe we'll have a PowerPoint to go with it, but.
Well, maybe we could catch them earlier, like anybody that applies for a board, they have to send in an application and all of this. And if we could have something in that application about conflict, and then whoever takes care of it, what's her name, back here, sends the applications to the
Oh, yeah.
mayor. Maybe she could go through it and talk to that person, say, you may have a conflict here or something to that effect. So maybe that's the person we ought to train first.
Mm-hmm.
And, we could catch it before they get on there for 12, 15
She
years.
actually does send stuff to me on occasion.
Yeah.
Ona does. Do you think this is a conflict? And usually you don't know. You'd have to call the person up and really talk to them.
Yeah,
Um,
but if we had something in the application process
Mm-hmm.
that states, about the conflict, and have one of these forms to fill out or something.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, if you did this, if people had to fill out this form ahead of time, and
Yeah.
you could review it, it would be
Mhm.
nice to sort of be like, oh, wait a minute, this is.
Maybe
there's
we
this-
can have that form in the application process.
Well, we could ask Ona what she does now.
Yeah,
Because she at least has identified them on occasion with me ahead of time, so maybe she has some type of form.
I don't remember filling out
So-
a form
Well, let me,
like that.
I'll, that'll be on my short list. Form RIA conflicts. Because I'll ask her real quick, how does she handle that? Because she's pretty careful and good, and again, I have had a half a dozen requests from her. What do you think about this? Is it a conflict? Is it too
Mhm.
close? So. But then I think, Terry, you're right. At some point, we probably want to get an educational thing out, maybe at the first meeting of the boards. You know, just like right now, they do this disclosure form, and here's your educational a handout that the staffers can give them. So everybody's aware of it right from the beginning while we're trying to get our video project together.
Right.
And so that handout's probably something similar to your educational letter,
Mhm, right.
plus more. So the educational letter that you send out, Lisa, could I get a hold of that?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put this on you. Lisa send to D, not D. Ask Lisa for the letter.
I will send it to you.
Okay. Because let's see how much that needs to be modified.
Right.
I just don't remember.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, when I get grades in, I'll start working on.
Well, I should send you some PowerPoint.
Oh, if you have some, yeah, because I might be able to just use some of the slides that are already existing.
Okay.
I'll send you that memo too, Dee.
Okay. And maybe in fact when you're here tomorrow, maybe I can try to figure out how to send that to your computer so that'll.
Yeah, great. Or I can just bring a thumb drive.
I was gonna say
I've
that might
always,
be
I've always
easier,
got
too.
one. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's just that'd be a lot easier than trying to email a whole bunch of stuff.
Okay. And you know how to download, right?
Yeah.
And where to stick it in.
Oh, actually, it depends. I don't know. I find that when I use Macs now, right? And
It
so I find that when I
depends
use a
on the-
computer at school,
yeah.
if it's not a Mac, I'm sort of like, I
Yeah.
figure it out eventually. But there is a lot of like,
D,
where?
ask office administrator before
May
tomorrow.
need help.
Well, there's a young attorney next to me, I'm sure. We certainly did get a lot of response. Huh?
Yeah, and how about John Watkins? He's an equal fourth person. Oh, he is. Let me tell you, he's on the Budget Advisory Committee. He also works for Anchorage Community Mental Health Services. He says they have 3 grants with the city. Does the Budget Advisory Committee do anything that would affect that?
I
or
don't know
the
how they
grant?
are with grants. They're a pretty active group.
They are an active group, right? That's
Yeah, so I don't know. So why don't we flag that one to ask more questions or at least figure out. Here too is a,
But the thing is, all the budget committee does, they don't, on the grants, they don't put out specific
mhm.
core. In other words, they wouldn't put
Select
out
or-
a grant for the hand commission.
Right.
They put out X number of dollars for grants, and it goes over there, then they have a process that goes through there. So the budget committee would have no decision as to who gets what. It's just a block of money for the grant application. So they wouldn't have any conflict that I could see.
I think you're right. What about inside knowledge or I just don't know enough about it, Ted. I think you're right, that that's all
Yeah,
they do.
I mean, that's what, they did, they go call that grant system something, and then all the nonprofits go in there, and he would go in there and apply for some of that money that would put in the grant, but he would have no
Say on which. which
say,
grants. So the conflict, so if there was a conflict, it would just be potentially, if you're in the Budget Advisory Committee, the larger the grant pool you recommend, the more chance that you would get a grant.
well, what they do over there, even that would be very slim, because what they do, you apply for I'll say a $50,000 grant.
Mm-hmm.
They may award you only a $10,000 one,
Right.
you know.
And the
So-
awarding does not in any way get done by the Budget Advisory
No.
Committee? Okay.
No. And they have, and the Budget Advisory Committee has no idea who put in for the grants.
I pulled out another one, Mark Spafford, he's an employee at AWU and is on the on-site wastewater technical review board. And again, it is an employee issue, on these boards. I don't think we're gonna, by the way, come up with a definitive answer on that. At some point, though, when Lisa's here, I'd like to tell you about our research and discussions about the issue.
About employees being on
Yeah,
that?
boards, just so that, because maybe that's something that's addressed in the new code rewrite, one way or the other, but I
Mhm.
can tell you the parameters of it. But I'm just gonna pull that myself.
Okay.
At this point, certainly, we don't have a rule, no employee on boards and commissions, so. Some of these are just pretty amazing, the level of people that get on these boards. Like Keith Mobley and Dennis Berry, they're on the Geotechnical Advisory Commission. And one's the president, is an engineering president of engineering company. And then you have another one, the same sort of thing, president of a different group. And I mean, there's sort of leaders in the industry that are on the commission. Now, that one would be interesting to see if they have if the code says that they want certain people, like 2 industry representatives. I'm gonna pull those 2 out. I went from impressed to, wait a minute.
Oh, wait, wait a minute.
But just great people. David Cole, he's an engineer with Dow. Really good people. Wow, there's just that whole board, yeah.
I'm just gonna tag mine.
Tori. I don't know if she's still on. I think she's still at PD.
I don't know.
But again, I don't think we have a rule right now if it's clean, so I'm just gonna keep looking at some of those. Here's another one of the hand ones.
Okay.
You know, I wonder, there's so many of the hand people there that they are involved in all sorts of nonprofits. If we asked just to go to their board and talk to them all, just say, what do you do? And ask if we could be invited to one of their meetings.
I think that'd be great.
Because
'cause
every
we've
other
had-
one of them has
some sort of
nonprofit
conflict,
connection,
and
yeah.
again, that's a board that that's a commission that we've had issues with in the past, and so.
And here's another one, John Spurbeck, Hand Commission, he works for Alaska Housing Finance Corp. Even there, I mean, again, they're all part of that business. And so, it'd be better just to go to the board and start talking to them.
I think so. I think
Because
so.
we don't understand what Hand Commission does.
I'm gonna find out when their next meeting is.
Yeah, if you could, Lisa, I'd
Okay.
appreciate it.
And that other person that we were gonna invite, same thing, well, you wouldn't need to invite her anymore.
Okay.
Executive Director of Alaska Legal Services and on the board of Rural Cap. Remember, we were gonna invite her, but this way we'll
Might as well just go.
keep every person on the board.
All the hand commission. Okay.
Really, all this interesting background of all these people on these boards. And you're on active duty Air Force and some of our board.
Yeah, just I'm working for senators.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's good to see, isn't it?
You know, another one that has a lot of this is the Health and Human Services Commission.
I was just thinking that.
They have a bunch of them too, where people are involved in the business. Why don't we see if we can invite ourselves to that one too? And I don't think we need to get invited now, but at some point, the Transportation Commission, they have all industry representatives on that board too. And I get questions from them a lot, you know, so if something we're looking at, an ordinance would affect this part of a taxi cab, and I own a taxi cab. Well, so you get into your substantial issues and.
Yeah.
Terry.
There he is, huh? Speaking of high caliber citizens.
Mhm. Yeah, U.S. Senate, good grief.
There's a few UAA people in here
Oh, yeah,
this time
quite a few,
around.
actually.
Yeah, I like that.
I think the missing members of the ethics board today probably ought to cook something for the next meeting. Thank you for your service today.
Yeah, I can't help but feel that Becky got warned by Lisa. What are we doing today? Oh,
may
we
not
have
want
200
to.
disclosures. Oh, right, I have litigation. I'm gonna be there.
So I just pulled this one too. Felix from, I was going to say upstairs, Felix from the mayor's office is on the Public Transit Advisory Board. So I will look at, I mean, it's
Okay.
just interesting that, wait a minute, we have, and that probably just needs to be decided at some point. I don't think that's our decision,
Right.
but again, when Lisa.
Yeah, but that's it. There's nothing in the charter or anything about that says like.
Well, let Lisa and I present it to you, because then we also met with Julia. So let us present it to you, sort of, I think it's an unanswered question.
Right.
Julia thinks it's more answered than I do. But we can tell you the pros and cons, but it sounds like it's more of a policy decision that either the, well, I would think it would be a mayor's issue, because
You would
it's a
think they're
mayor's
the
board.
points, right? Yeah.
And, well, I'll tell you this little snippet, is that Lisa and I met with Julia, and she pointed out she has always thought that employees should not be on boards and commissions, because the whole idea of boards and commissions would get the average citizen involved.
Right.
And unless it says so in the code that employees shall be on it. The attorney's office has said, unless the code says an employee can't be on it, then we think they can be on it. So we take the reverse position.
Right.
So ethics board says employees can't be on it. Julia bolsters her argument by, if you look in the code, appointed people, elected officials, and employees are mutually, exclusively defined.
Right.
So, for instance, under the employee section, they'll say, this section excludes the other two. And therefore, that's been codified. And I said, well, really, does the ethics code have that type of jurisdiction to make that type of sweeping decision hidden in its definitions? I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah.
And so it seems to be a better issue to address head on. And you know, some of these people I've noted that I've pulled out for myself to look at, you know, they have really technical skills, or I mean, like the one AWU person is on the I forget the name of the advisory, but it's very clear that they would be very helpful in that commission.
Yeah. Right.
Now,
Right.
where we have drawn, where I would suggest the board draws the line, and this will come up in Jill Ann's request for advisory opinion member, the ER employee, is that, however, if they want to be on a board that's adjudicatory in any capacity, quasi-judicial, whatever you want to call it, that probably not, because they serve the administration, they're management, and here's an applicant is asking management for some privilege, a permit, whatever, and staff is recommending, let's say, no, and so now our employee is going to be on one side of that issue. It's an issue of serving two masters, but I wanted to fully talk about that.
Yeah.
So in Jill Ann's case, I looked up all the land use boards, and every single one of them are regulatory and quasi-adjudicatory or something. That's what they're labeled in Title IV, so that it would preclude her, I think, under two masters analysis.
Mhm.
But I want the board to think about that and talk about it.
Yeah.
The other issue about whether there should or should not be a blanket prohibition about employees on boards, I do think it's more of an eighth floor decision than certainly not our decision. And again, just because the definitions are mutually exclusive, to me, it's a definitional section. I'm not sure it has that kind of authority.
Right.
And especially when employees do have some novel skills in many areas. If it's no undue knowledge or confidential information or ability to influence, and they want to go to board meetings at night, I'm not sure that's such a bad, especially when it's clearly out of their area. Like, I mean, you can't get people on the animal control boards because they don't want to make decisions about euthanizing animals. You know, and an employee wants to do that. So, anyway, so that's sort of the context of it.
Yeah, right. That is interesting. Yeah. Yeah, because you're right. Yeah, because it does define them in exclusive ways, right?
Yeah.
But if there are boards that it's been specifically required, that's actually a problem generally. Then, right? I mean, if you have a board in which a municipal employee is required to be on the board,
Mm-hmm.
surely both the employee and the board provisions of the code should apply to them.
Mhm.
But this would suggest maybe it doesn't,
Yeah.
right? I mean, because it you're right, it begins with the appointed board, it begins by excluding out, but not including elected officials and not including
But
municipal employees.
But to me, is that for purposes of the ethics code only,
Right.
for the provisions, for the application of the provisions of the ethics board? That, so when they're sitting on the board, an employee is a board member.
Mhm.
Now, I think it makes more sense that the employee is both, retains the employee. So I think it's more of an
Uh-huh.
application
I see what
issue.
you're saying, yeah, right.
And certainly, this issue wasn't knowingly addressed when the
Oh, yeah,
Assembly
sure.
adopted this. You know.
Yeah,
Now, having said that, there's only a handful of employees on boards.
interesting,
But-
yeah.
And I think that just goes with the general philosophy, is you do want volunteers and, I think we're all done reading.
Oh, yeah, is everyone done? Sorry,
Yeah.
now we're off into
Into an exciting new world. I
Oh,
can
it
see
is,
that.
it's hard, yeah, that's,
If you look past that golden rod, there's the three reports are updated. If you just want to get an idea of where we're at in terms of what we got left to get
How many
in.
people-
Yeah, because we still probably have half again more to go.
Yeah, but we're at least half now.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
We're better than not.
Better than not, yes.
Well, and this
Can
is
I-
something that owners should be able to see which of the boards are not responding.
Well, I send this back to Felix.
Okay. And he works with
Then
it
he-
on the whole issue.
You know, in the meantime, can I get a motion that aside from the ones that we're going to investigate further, do we have a motion to approve then the consent agenda, which included all of these disclosures, right? That included,
Do we need to do the notices of intent before we?
because
that's part of the consent.
I'm already through.
You already- I saw you
Yes,
going
yes,
through
yes,
it,
we're
so.
going- Let's go, that's the last piece of the consent agenda, then we'll approve it all in one fell swoop.
Well, in the first part of that notice of intent, D, is your issue with Eric Croft.
Oh, okay, yeah, right.
I did talk to Eric, and he said, yeah, the school board has, and this is this his old one or his new one?
Yeah, this is
Okay.
his old.
He's, by the way, now, he asked me how to pull it off the internet, and I walked him all the way through all the, so he's now doing one for his current position,
Right.
as assembly person. But I did ask him about this, and the school board has nothing to do with selection or administration of contracts. However, if it's a large enough contract, and we think it's a very large contract, 500,000 or so, then the school board does approve. And clearly, his wife owns a 50% interest in the architectural firm, that he would not be involved any time his wife's firm would be involved. Now, he's no longer with the school board, so, but the same would apply here, and he said, and their contracts tend to be very large, so he is aware of that.
Okay.
Was that the same thing? What about the Susan Gardner one? We pulled that for you too.
Oh, that was.
Oh, that was the MOA foreclosure sale.
Yeah, just that whole process, and actually I'm playing phone tag with them, but I could have
Okay.
it for the next time.
Okay. But other than that,
Because
they're all.
what I had brought up with that was that in the foreclosure sale process, we have had former children of employees bid on foreclosed property, and they did a whole firewall type thing, I think, which would be interesting to see.
Right.
And after that, the rest of them should be new ones. After those two, there should be a goldenrod in between, and then all the others are new.
And by the way, one of the issues last time was on the person who filed the notice of intent to solicit late, whether to allow him to withdraw. I don't see anything in the code, so I think that's the board's prerogative. And again, personally, I don't think it's a good practice, that I think once we've debated it, especially if it would be helpful for the general public to know, just that, you know, when rules are black and white, the ethics board doesn't have the discretion to vary from them. Their discretion may be evident in interpretations of some code sections like good faith or impropriety, but not in the black and white. So my recommendation to the board is that that it's not allowed to be withdrawn
Okay.
after it's been heard. It's just not a good practice at all.
So when we get there, do we need to make a motion to that? Or, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess when we get there.
Well, I thought we made a decision on that.
Well, I said we made a decision, and then we sort of suggested that maybe the person asking for the opinion would want to withdraw that request. But I think Dee's right, that I think if someone makes a request and we discuss it in front of them and basically tell them what we're thinking, it's probably not appropriate as a practice to then let them just pull the request. Because then what would happen is people would just make
Exactly.
requests thinking, well, as soon as I find out what the board wants, if I get the answer I don't want, then I'll just pull it. And then when we lose an important function,
Yeah.
at least being public, the
Yeah.
ones that were confidential has been waived, and even the ones where they're not, because we scrub them and we redact them. Every time we do an advisory opinion, that becomes publicly available, and that helps citizens and members of the municipality be able to gauge their own situation. So we lose some of our educational function if we sort of allowed as a general practice people to pull their request whenever they were going to get an answer that they didn't like.
So given that, if that's the case, either I or you could write it very
Yeah.
Of
quickly.
course, I don't believe that one should have even come to the list board, because it was, you know, he wanted us to waive the,
Waive the code, basically. Yeah, that's
waive
right.
the code, and, you know, we don't have the authority to
Well,
waive
I
the
think that's
code
right.
or
I think that's
anything
right.
like that, so that shouldn't have even come to this board.
Well, and you know, that's something I can look at, do we have standards? He's the one that brought it to the board
Mhm.
and insisted to, after both myself and the clerk's office said, no, you lose on this issue, period,
Right.
black and white. Well, I want to bring it to the board. And does the citizen have that right under our code, or is there, you know, on the notice of potential violation, we do that whole almost probable cause analysis, but in the advisory opinion, I don't know if we have that.
But he was turned down because of the time element,
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
and it specifically says in the code, but, you know, so, I mean,
Yeah, but Ted, I don't know if we have the filter for that. I mean, in other words, so do I have that power as a municipal ethics officer to just say no, and furthermore, you don't get to go to the board either because we don't think it's worthwhile?
well, it maybe not, but then he could take it to the ombudsman. You know, the ombudsman would have the authority to.
And I think he did. I think he did. But it all gets back to the same pot. It gets on my desk.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
But and the only reason it left my desk this time is because he
You don't have a trash
specifically.
can next to your desk?
I have a very large one. It's
Well,
because
again-
he specifically made the request. I would not have referred this to the board.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I mean, I think if you look at that section of the code, there's no filtering mechanism
yeah.
set up. And I think if you're going to tell a member of the municipality, no, you may not ask for an advisory opinion from the board, you would really had better have good
Well,
black letter kind of
and-
here's where it says I have that authority.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's a hassle for us. But I mean, we haven't had too many of these. Particularly requests,
No.
since requests are coming from people within the municipality, you usually do screen out most of them. It's the notice of potential violation where we eventually had to create that because
Yeah.
we were just getting there. Every year there's at least a few that are like, wow, that's
Yeah.
not even close,
Maybe-
right? That's
Maybe the assembly would have the authority to waive that section or whatever.
Well, Ted, the other reason why it is helpful from a legal point of view is one of the things we're finding out more and more in court right now is if a citizen, if we make a decision as to any type of right, especially a property right, in this case trying to do a bid, and they don't have an avenue for appeal, we lose. You know, you have there has to be an appeal right when a government takes away a property interest. And so there's all sorts of decisions in the planning and platting world that fall into that category. Well, here's another one. No, you cannot bid. Should this person have an appeal right? Now, again, this is a weaker than usual case, I think. But so it's just helpful that really his appeal right to a decision of the clerk's office and the real estate services, which said, no, you missed the deadline, you're done. We're the appellate. We serve
Of course,
almost an
I
appellate
believe-
function.
I believe the reason that the first one rejected it because they thought they could get it at a cheaper price.
Oh, exactly, sure.
At any rate, back to these. Does anyone have anything in here that he's overlooked us, any otherwise?
No, the one on, but then, you say pretty much a complaint from the Rabbit Creek, Community Council.
Yeah,
You,
are we on that yet?
Not yet, we
not yet,
gotta.
is everyone done reviewing these notices
yeah,
for
yeah.
solicitation?
And may I just say, the only thing that I've written down is Vicente, D will check, Connolly, D will check, Spinelli, send a letter, and
No.
Oh,
Okay,
don't
we're
send
not-
it.
don't say,
Hold
oh,
off.
okay, that's why I wrote,
Hold
okay,
off.
hold on that, okay. Okay, that's so, just Vicente and Connolly are the only ones that are actually,
just a.
D will check, but then D, all the ones you marked, should I bring those all back? Just
Well,
pull them
I
and.
think most of those, many of them are hand commissioned.
Uh-huh,
So, in fact, almost all of them are hand commissioned. And then the other ones were the employee issues, so no, I wouldn't, I would just, because we right now do not have a clear rule. on
so
that.
go ahead and accept
Yeah.
all of those, but you're gonna
Right.
look into all that, okay, okay,
And if you think they need to come back, then you'll
Yeah,
send
I
it
can
back.
do that then.
okay.
All right, well, if you guys are all finished otherwise, so with the exception of those two, the Connolly and the Vicente one, do we have a motion to approve all of the disclosures? Well, maybe we'll do it one at a
Well,
time, even though what is the
Oh,
consent
you ain't got
agenda?
time to do one.
No, no, one
Well,
section.
No, I mean one section at a time.
But Ted was right, the applicant from last week is in this group.
He is.
Uh,
His is in that group.
Oh.
Let's just call him David.
Okay.
David is in this group, and so we're not approving his.
Yeah, we better, pull that one.
So that's the only one.
I'll make a motion, we approve them all except the ones that, that Dee has pulled.
Okay, well, so we're gonna look at Connolly, I'm gonna look at Connolly and
Mhm.
Vicente.
Mhm.
The hand commission, I do think that those should be held pending a meeting with that.
Okay.
We just don't have the information. That seems to be the most thing, and the other one was what, the Health and Human Services
Mhm.
Board, whether those should be same thing, whether we should meet with them. And then just this one, the one who had requested an advisory opinion last week.
Okay.
Okay.
And he wanted, he did and he didn't waive confidentiality, and we didn't like that, so let's call him David. For the record.
Half and half.
All right, very good. So aside from those that Dee has pulled and that we'll look into further, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
All right, further
Second.
discussion?
She's second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, no? Okay, very good. Consent agenda passes then. Good. Let's move on to unfinished business. And again, my understanding is we don't have any of this done, right? Is that right?
Right.
Dee? So,
The
okay,
opinions are
so
still
let's
pending.
see. And then how about
Well, can I correct that that on the first one, 6A, the NRPV 2016-1, I am transferring all that to Kathleen.
Mhm.
Okay, just wanted to verify for myself. Okay, thank you.
And then I guess that maybe takes us up to G, 6G. Is it a conflict of interest for them to receive? Oh, we talked about this.
We talked
last
about
week,
that
didn't
now, and
we?
we
Okay,
said
so
no.
something just has to get written up. 'cause
A
I know that one-
paragraph, you had asked me to write a paragraph.
Okay.
That's, well,
Did
Dee
you?
was going to write a paragraph, but Ted was going to report about his conversation.
Oh, that was a different one.
Oh, that, sorry.
Yeah, that was,
the
Second.
that was the tax one. Yeah, that was.
Oh, but
No.
well, this G is the fire chief. Is F the other one? No?
Maybe I don't know, maybe I got it mixed up. I better go
Yeah,
check my
G
minutes.
is the fire department one about the antique pumper.
Okay, so that wasn't Ted, that was,
And I just
Yeah,
was write a
that's
quick
about the plane.
paragraph.
sorry about that.
Plane
Okay. Your plane ticket, this is the plane ticket.
No. Well, yeah, no, the other one you're thinking about is Liberty Tax.
But that's not
APD
plane
Liberty
tickets.
tax. No, okay, but this wasn't the one Ted was supposed to report on.
Okay, you're not reporting on plane tickets, okay.
No.
Never mind.
Okay, and then
Again.
H ethics code rewrite. We're still working on that, but I got a note here. Assemblyman Flynn is.
So at the assembly meeting, when David met, you were there, and David talked about wanting, the code rewrite. Assemblymember Flynn said that he wants to be the liaison for the rewrite. So he's actually listed under the Ethics and Elections Commission as liaison for the code rewrite. So what that means, I'm not exactly sure yet. Is that saying I want to be uber involved, or what is that saying?
Yeah, well, I have emailed him.
Okay.
And we're trying to figure out a time for he, Lisa, and I to meet, because he's here on Fridays a lot, and Lisa doesn't work Fridays.
Ah, okay.
So I hate to pull him off his job to come down here, so maybe, he doesn't come a lot on Fridays, though, does he? Maybe if I see him
really.
tomorrow.
Yeah, he might.
I just try to set a time, because I said, yeah, what do you
With the
want?
executive session, he just may be here tomorrow.
Oh, that's right. Okay, well, if he does that, then I'll sneak in a conversation, but no, so I have
Find
reached
out.
out to him.
Okay.
What does he want?
Okay.
What does he anticipate his role?
Okay, thank you, Dean.
Okay, good. All right, and then let's see. I think there's time until.
Now, what about Ted's? Did you report back on meeting with APD last week?
Oh, no, he didn't report
Oh.
back.
No, we didn't discuss that.
And I'm sorry, Terry, to
Oh,
interrupt you, but
yeah,
somehow
that's-
that's not in here.
It's
unless
not,
it's-
because I goofed it
No,
up. I
no,
goofed up.
We,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'll add it.
we were going to just handle it without, it wasn't, but anyway, I met with both the chief and the two deputy chiefs. We had a meeting on it and reviewed the personnel directions, correct? And nothing has changed on that, and so it is totally not allowed in the department.
Oh,
But-
okay.
Oh.
But they, the new chief, has got an one of the administrators there, took it upon herself to accept the letter from them rather than
Oh.
kick it back right then.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody said, well, you better send it down to the ethics board. Well, it should have never come here to start with, is what the chiefs told me, that they handle it in-house. And of course, she was told that, you know, anything like that goes to the chief or
Right to the
one of
chief.
the deputy
Okay.
chiefs.
Okay.
And it goes out, and so they put it out that, no, it was not authorized by and the fire department has the same code of,
No.
personnel code, they can't accept anything like that. So it was all handled in-house. Okay, just a mistake on the administrative assistant that the letter got sent down here. And they were gonna send another letter withdrawing it or telling them that it was, and I don't know,
I don't think they need to. I think that,
yeah.
so we just withdraw whatever number that was.
Yeah. I didn't even number it. It was a question.
Yeah.
You know, our little questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, sure, because that wasn't even officially a
Yeah.
request for advisory, so yeah, we can just,
Right.
that's resolved, that's
Yeah.
what, yeah, good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for doing that, Ted, that's perfect.
Well, that's right, because it wasn't even an advisory committee.
It's like,
It
sort of
was
like this
my-
thing was at the end, this new business, just a question, right?
Question.
Well, remember, it was going to be one of my
You're
lead-off
frequently-
new
Free question website, yeah.
where the board would unanimously agree with my recommendation and would quickly put it into writing.
And Dee is going to, we're giving this to Dee, the question about the medical trust, and put
Oh.
it back on the agenda, is that
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Okay, good, well, that,
Why don't we handle that fire department one at the same time now? Out there,
the pumper?
about the pumper, they're trying to sell
Oh, I
tickets
thought we
to-
said.
We handled that,
agreed
yeah.
with that last week,
Because
that was
they-
okay, and
Yeah,
someone,
okay.
Yeah.
probably me, was supposed to write
I mean,
something.
No,
Dee is
Dee
write a
Okay,
little
yeah,
paragraph.
And the chances are very, very slim that somebody from the fire department is gonna win it anyway, you know.
Oh, absolutely, no, I think we thought it was okay, right? I mean, we
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
see any particular.
And I just need to write a
conflict there.
paragraph for you, but in the meantime, I've told them that it was okay.
Yeah, again, we
Yeah.
voted on that last
Yeah.
time, right, so we could give them an answer right away, so.
Okay.
yeah,
So
we're-
that will be the kickoff to our question section. on the website.
Okay, well, good. Well, in some sense, it's not exactly we didn't finish way, actually, we're hardly early at all, right? So, well, I guess it's good that we caught a break then with the other stuff, and we were able to catch up with all these disclosures and the like,
Yeah.
and actually had a chance to talk a little bit about broader vision of what we'd like this board to be doing in the city. We do sort of get drowned underneath the paperwork sometimes, and so.
And
Okay.
I'm super excited about you all being there tomorrow, so.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Mhm.
So to recap the stuff that we're going to do, all of us who have our assignments for advisory opinions and like, we're going to work on that for next meeting. I'll meet you guys tomorrow and we'll do something, and then we're going to try to set up a meeting with
And
Han
commission
and maybe the Health and Human Services Commission for at least some
Yeah,
of us. All
yeah.
of us are welcome, but whoever we can send over, at least a few of us over. And then remind me tomorrow. I'll bring my. I always have my phone. But let me download those PowerPoints
Okay.
if you can find them. And because grades are due on Wednesday, so beginning even at the end of next week, I'll have a little bit of a window in which I can actually do something. I can maybe take those slides, and I can, since I do that for my classes all the time, it's easy for me. I've got to set up and everything. I just put narration to it, and then.
Oh, so you can do your own filming and.
Well, what I can do is you take the PowerPoints and you actually add, you can record audio
Oh.
on top of the
Oh, really?
PowerPoint, and then when
Oh.
the user opens the PowerPoint, and when they go play slideshow, it actually,
Oh, that would be perfect.
even the transitions, you time the transitions, and you talk, goes to the next section, next
See,
section.
now that
So,
would be
yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, I think
And
that's
these PowerPoints were done, 7-8 years ago. And so, other than gift, I also didn't totally agree with some of the analysis. So it'd be perfect to have someone like you jump in.
Yeah, fix
and
the
also
stuff that's
decide-
changed in the meantime,
Yeah, and
and then-
decide what stuff is important. Like there's a whole discussion of moral code versus ethics versus law. And see, now for you might like that.
I would like that, but I realize that's. Trust me. Oh, and I understand. That was in my presentation for this afternoon. I finished up, and then I looked at my PowerPoint. It was like 125 slides, and I'm like, okay. And when I had to come out, something. It breaks my heart, but 5 slides on what's the distinction between ethics and morality. All right, that's coming
See,
out.
now
right.
when we get to the one I give you, same thing. You'll
Yeah,
be,
it's all,
your arms will be all.
I can guarantee
under.
that's got Jim Lischka written all over it. I can imagine him totally. It's like, what is the purpose?
Just
What
keep it
is
in.
virtue? Can virtue be taught?
Well, and any number of
I know that,
Seinfeld clips that you can include would be
Yeah, right. That's
entertaining.
well, that's always the kick is like finding like goofy and funny pictures on the web to
See,
put
that'd
up
be
there and
great
stuff
if you
like
could do that, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I really think that's our only hope of making this work is to have something like that you can give out at the first meeting of boards and commissions, and then volunteer. Do they want a follow-up
Yeah.
conflict of interest
Yeah, I agree.
meeting? And then you could do 3 or 4 boards together. I mean, that's the other thing. Some of these boards are pretty small.
Yeah. That's
we
true.
could get
That's
them
that'd
done
be another way in
in
which
1 year instead
Yeah.
of 3 years.
Instead of 3. But even even if it takes 3, I think we shouldn't let that daunt us. Even if we slowly start chipping away and just sort of like say that's just going to be a regular thing that this board's going to do for the next however long it exists. That
Yeah.
we're just slowly going to be working our way through the boards, making sure that even if we say every board's gotten hands-on training from the Board of Ethics, even if it is once every 3 years, at least that's something.
Well,
People's
I
terms
added
are
up the
typically 2
boards.
years, right? So
Right,
at
2
least
to 3.
you're at least getting around.
Yeah.
For most people, you'll be hitting them mostly at least once.
I added the number of boards up from the reports, and there's 75, so it might be once every 6 years.
75. Oh, never mind. We're not doing that. This is ridiculous. It's slavery at a certain point. No, we'll figure out. We might
Yeah.
consolidate some boards, but I don't think
I
we should
think
let
you
the numbers
could, yeah.
daunt us. I think
Yeah.
we've been talking about doing this. If we started doing this when we talked about doing it, we'd probably be through about 25 boards already, right? Because we started talking about it about 2 years ago.
Look, and the video can be invaluable. I mean, the only
Yeah.
thing you're not getting is in-depth examples of conflicts of interest, which are difficult and are, I think, more helpful to be there.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, and even the PowerPoint can do that, right? I mean, the PowerPoint can take some fairly right down the middle of the fairway type cases and say, okay, let's analyze this case. Let's go through the criteria, substantial interest, and like walk people through it.
The other thing we could do is through ONA, send out some type of request to the boards or to the staffers saying, hey, get for us 5 simple examples of conflicts, not a whole page long, paragraph long, and send them to us. And we're going to put together a video PowerPoint.
That would be great. Yeah, so redact them so no one feels uncomfortable about the case.
Talk
And
to
then just
ONA.
Okay,
Ethics
right.
is my life.
Yeah, right. Probably never thought that when you're going to law school.
Okay.
All right, very good. Well, I think that's all we have, right? So, very good. So we
10
have
minutes to spare.
10 minutes to spare. Okay.
And sandwiches to spare.
And
Take
sandwiches,
a sandwich
I
if
know,
you'd
right,
like.
Yeah.
I have a question. Now, when I've researched this, it's illegal for us to be involved in any municipal election. You know, whatever it be. But there's an exemption in there for state election. Now, how does the board feel about being, when I've been asked to help with the state Senate election out in my district out there. And I said I would check with the board to see if it was all right to do it.
And Ted, you've actually looked at the language where it just prevents the board members from being part of municipal elections,
Right,
right?
but
And it doesn't mention state.
It doesn't mention state. And then under state code, it doesn't say anything about it.
My feeling is that the code allows it, and the only hesitation that I would have that I think would actually still be allowed by the code, but where I would be concerned is if you were working for a campaign for a city official who was running for state office.
Yeah.
And so
yeah.
that-
And I
you
think,
know.
yeah, we did that last
Yeah.
time.
Well, you might remember when Mark Begich ran
Yeah.
for U.S. Senate, right? There was that question of,
Right.
could people on the Board of Ethics be campaigning for him?
Right.
And strictly speaking, the code allows it, and those people were allowed to do that.
Right.
But I would caution sort of like as a appearance
No,
of a
there's so much-
non-impropriety,
so
saying,
many-
geez, you don't want to look like you're in an agency type position working for a municipal official, even though it's for a state election, and then turn out and potentially sometime over the next year also be reviewing an ethics matter that involves
Yeah.
them. But I would say if there's no municipal official involved, without doubt, the code certainly allows you to participate. And I have no.
This involves she's a member of the House of Representatives and Lyndon Palmer.
Okay.
And she's filing for that vacant seat that Bill is vacating, his Senate seat out there.
Okay.
And Bill Stoltz. And so she's filed to run for that, and then she'd asked me to help her on some items.
Yeah, I think with the usual caveats, right? Don't represent yourself as as a member of the Board of Ethics. I'm going to tell you how great she is.
No.
So she's really ethical. In fact, as a member of the Board of Ethics, I can certify. Right? I mean, just
No.
but otherwise, yeah, I don't think there's
And as former APD chief,
here's some Board of Ethics letterhead that I've made.
Or a member of the Agriculture Assembly.
Assembly, right? That's.
No, I'm just.
Well, ironically, I think you're allowed to say that, right? I think
Yeah,
your
you
title
can,
comes with you
because-
that you can identify yourself as a former
can- you
assembly
can say
person,
that.
right?
But you can't say I'm a member of the Board of Ethics.
No, that's absolutely right.
motion to adjourn, someone?
Yeah, anyone motion to adjourn? All right, very good. Thanks, everyone. Today's continued meeting is over. So.